Welcome to Origin, Remember Your Truth, a podcast for everyone who senses there's more than meets the eye. I'm your host, Anna Hochwald, and I'm really excited that you're here. Together, we explore what lies beneath conditioning, roles, and learned identities through energy, intuition, and lived experience. This is your invitation to remember your inner truth and to feel what's true for you. Take what resonates and throw out the rest. Today, I'm sitting down with Joseph Sorensen, and we're diving into his journey from atheism into spirituality, talking about shadow work and what it actually feels like when your identity starts to shift in real time. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I think I'm going to introduce myself as, so there's an author called Jenny Lawson, and she wrote a book recently that came out. And one of her older books, though, she titles herself as adult mammal, I think is what it is. And I think that probably fits me pretty well right now, is I feel like an adult and a mammal. And yeah, my background is in technology for the most part, but I would largely say that because of how broad my technology interests are, my interests in general are, I'm more of a pattern person. So I see the patterns in things, and then I find ways to break those patterns down into digestible pieces for people. So I love building systems. I love puzzles of all sorts, even puzzles that people don't think are puzzles, riddles, all that stuff. I love seeing the patterns around me kind of unfold. And I see things as cycles. I don't see time quite the same way others might see it. I see it as a repeating sort of pattern that has a slight change over time. But yeah, I think I know too many things to put on LinkedIn, and I get frustrated with that sometimes. But with the AI world the way it is, and with technology, constantly changing and improving, I love seeing how we use old technologies for new ideas. I think it's fascinating to me. And so this journey was an interesting one to find myself on.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think this is the most unique introduction I've had so far by anyone, because we met during an energy healing training that we're following at the moment. And yeah, I just thought you're really cool. I want to have you on the podcast, interview you, talk to you, get to know you more. And you said during our talk before this interview that last year you saw yourself as an atheist. Now you're doing an energy healing training.
Oh yeah,
How did you end up there?
yeah, and
End up, but
I've done
yeah,
this is
what
I think
happened?
yeah, no, me too. Um this is my third class that's of such nature, right? So yeah, I would say that last year this time I was solidly atheist still. This is at middle of April. I definitely was not thinking about spirituality. It was not something that was I think we probably were playing around with ideas of things like oh gosh, I don't know, maybe tarot cards, or I was learning what are tarot cards, where did they come from, right? Because I have this voracious appetite for apparently not saying words correctly, but it is for finding out more information. Um, and so like I'm always reading or consuming. I'm interested in other people's perspectives, um, even when they're like mine, but more especially whenever they're different, right? I think that that's a fascinating part of life. And so where last year at this time we were probably learning a little bit, and I say we, it's me and my wife for the most part. So when I'm saying we, that's usually what I'm saying. But um, yeah, we were learning tarot cards. We were reading about kind of the beginnings of like crystal work, I think. And the only
Hmm.
reason that was of interest to me really was because frequencies have always been of interest to me. I've always been fascinated by the fact that we Well, we put a whole lot on evidence research, right? Like we put a whole lot on this idea that I have to be able to measure it or it's just not real. I mean, despite the fact we have, blatant observations that definitely contradict that. Like, how do you measure love? Well, you can't. Does that mean it doesn't exist? No, it's a thing. It's definitely there, and it definitely causes lots of stuff to happen. But we can measure the effects of it, right? And so I saw most of science around me as measuring incorrectly, um, or measuring incomplete. I would say probably better. And so that's the frequencies. And at some point, it kind of dawned on me, came to me, whatever. Uh, Crystals, to some degree, resembled to me what it would look like if we paused time and the frequencies that exist around us stopped. Because frequencies are this wave of oscillation,
Hmm.
and if you squeeze time together, right, you don't have the peaks and the valleys are all they're a structure at that point. They become a thing, especially if they're overlapping each other. And so I remember looking at a crystal. Actually, it's probably down here somewhere. I remember looking at like this crystal and just kind of realizing that if I could pause time and I take all the Wi-Fi signals, all the cell phone signals, all the words being said, emotions moving around us, all this stuff, I paused time and I just took a cylinder of like right there. I think it would resemble a crystal. I think it would be this sort of crystalline structure. Um,
That's a fascinating concept. I've never thought of it that way, but
and that
it
kind of,
resonates somehow.
yeah, that's where I think for me, that's where I started going, things don't make complete sense. Um, and that I can't really tell you how I definitely opposed the idea of God for at least 3 months of being awake or awakening or whatever it's called. Um, but I just saw everything. I chose words very specifically, like universe, source, words that didn't invoke this idea of labels again, right? They didn't
Hmm.
invoke this
Yeah.
idea of man in the sky that rules over you. Because whatever source, God, universe is, I don't think it's authoritarian. I just don't. I think it's more like the ocean, and we're drops in the ocean. Like I see it. You know, we are part of the wave of experience that's at the top, and we can be the wave of experiences at the floor of the sea. um, and the things that are happening even outside of the ocean can affect all the way down to the seabed, right? And so I think I see that source or God or whatever word people decide to associate with as that ocean. And without us contributing even just our drop, right? There's no ocean. It takes a lot to do that, to create that.
So it was more of a slow transition into this field, going and slowly evolving. Well, not that slowly. I mean, if it was only 1 year ago, it wasn't that slow.
Right. No, right. No,
I
it's slow when I look back on it, right? It was a slow burn when I looked at it. When I was going through it, it was not a slow thing. And so I think that again, I see things in patterns. And so I think the pattern was that I had to spend time like kind of cooking on the idea in my head of like this is, maybe it did just start with just frequencies, and I just saw frequencies as being so easy to understand for me, because I already deal with them in technology and electronics. And so the frequencies became this idea of how would that be physical, and then that became somehow a little, just enough sprinkle of spiritual to put a foothold in and to put like a crack, I guess. And then the pattern ends up being that I had to have an experience that was uniquely mine, where I feel sort of pulled away, isolated, separated, breakable, if you will, right? Because we get stuck in our conformity. Like we get stuck just trying to exist in life, and we forget that we're blinded by what's going on until something happens. And I think that I had to have this sort of perfect storm to really, and I'm stubborn, so it had to be really, really perfect. Right. And so I had this perfect storm that just creates this spot where I just go, what am I doing? Why am I fighting this so hard? And then, yeah. So I
So
was
you
work.
were still in your old job when you were going through this
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah. No, I was still at Duke, Duke University, and I was a systems and projects analyst there. And I'm
Very
already
mind centered.
right. Yeah. Very, very much everything above the chest, right? Like
Yeah.
feet, what are those? They just move me around. That's it. Um, yeah. And so I started trying to manage the anxiety that I was having, which was I already had a crippling amount of anxiety just
Hmm.
because trauma in life had kind of set the stage for that.
Okay.
And so the trauma in life plus the trauma at work, which was just higher anxiety, that it wasn't traumatic in any physical way, it just mental mostly and emotional. Um, yeah, those set it up to be able to go, what the hell am I doing, and why am I doing it this way? And then I was able to push back and go, I need to find a better way to manage this stress.
Hmm.
So I started looking at, um, I had a therapist that I just started, like, I I talked to him about it just recently that like we we didn't anticipate having to work on much except for like maybe sleep patterns and anxiety, right? Like that's what I was coming to talk to him about. I was like, yeah, no, everything's pretty stable, been stable for a few years, not a big deal.
Stable. Also
Yeah,
a word.
right,
It, it works.
right,
Sounds very pleasant.
right. But uh it it really wasn't stable. It just needed the right catalyst, I think. And so that luckily enough, he was very helpful and, try this meditation, see if that works, try this. Um, and I think I tried a few of the things that he was recommending and others had recommended too. And it actually ended up being Alan Watts' YouTube video. I think that I happened to just come across looking for other meditations that I came across this one. And it was either the one called Listening or the one called Dreaming. Both of those are on YouTube. And uh, it guides you through this sort of meditation, but he makes the point of saying like your goal isn't to be quiet. It's not That's not the goal. The goal isn't to like tell your inside head or your visual to just stop doing. It's not going to stop doing. It's to find comfort or find it okay to let it just run free, right? Just let it go. You can be the observer, right? And just observe. And that is essentially meditation. And so his start of it is saying, sit outside, listen to this, but listen to like the trees, listen to the birds, listen to the water. There's this happening around us. And that is the spiritual experience. It is the happening that's around us that we're experiencing. I don't I
Mm.
can't tell you. I can tell you the day things were different, but I can't tell you if there was a word or but the meditation put me in that place to find it okay to be the observer and not have to feel like I have to action on everything. I don't have to respond all the time. Not every thought that comes to me
Mhm.
is meant to be ran with. Sometimes they're just meant to let go. And
Yep.
that's where I found it, I think, somewhere in there. Um, I did
Cool.
still very much dislike spiritual terminologies for the most part. And
The
they're okay.
term itself already is, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, for me personally, I work now in the, let's call it, spiritual realm, or what society deems spiritual. Why put a label on it?
right.
Because
Yeah,
I also still connect things with the label spiritual, and somehow I don't want that label. I don't want any labels. I know you also have an
yeah,
interesting perspective on labels, and
yeah. No,
yeah,
it requires, like, there's shortcuts, right? But sometimes the shortcuts don't work out really well. Um,
shortcuts.
Labels, yeah, I see labels as like
Oh,
shortcuts.
the labels are
You know,
shortcuts.
um, it's like they're like a business card, right?
Mm.
They tell you a little bit, but they don't tell you, is that a good company? Is that a bad company? Is that a lot of people? A little, it just doesn't have depth in it. And so you look at that one thing and you make your assumptions. But if you don't ever have the chance to experience them, then the label's just not enough.
Or even misleading,
Or
because
yeah, yeah,
someone can have that occupation. You connect certain traits with that occupation. The person is not that
right,
occupation.
right.
And then you meet them and you do not see what you expected or
Right. Well, the same
experience.
doctor is a great example of that. People hear the word doctor, at least where I'm from, like they hear the word doctor and they believe that that person is medical for sure. But they believe that they have a certain level of competence and experience, and that's not like they have first
And they're
days
healthy.
too. Oh, and they're healthy, yeah. But they have first days at work too, right? They have first days that the day they graduated, they were still a doctor that day, and they had never, you know. I mean, I don't know what it takes to be a doctor. I'm not gonna jump on that one. And
Yeah. It's funny because somehow I always end up with doctors in my episodes.
I
I don't
was
know why.
I was just thinking about that. There was an episode where you kept picking on
Yeah.
doctors. I was like, dang, I've
I
done the
don't know
same
any
thing.
doctors. Maybe that's why
Right. It's easy.
why it's the doctors. Because I feel like I'm not offending anyone personally. Sorry to everyone who is a doctor and who's listening to this somehow.
But yeah,
I don't know why. Yeah, but the labels, they are an interesting concept. I mean, people try to understand the world and maybe also to create a system to make it easier to grasp because the world is so vast and there's so much going on. And yeah, to give yourself a bit more of almost guidance because you think, oh, or you're just going to label it that way. So that's what you can expect, to give yourself maybe space as well, because
right.
then you don't have to be surprised by everything. Because
Right.
sometimes the surprise is even greater when you expected something in particular. If you expect nothing, well, then the surprise is already kind of, yeah, you expect a surprise.
Right. So
I'd
yeah.
be really interested in, um, regarding your transition and before being more of, yeah, mind centered, let's put it that way. But I know, as we've talked a bit, that you perceive the world very differently from maybe the general population.
That would
Could
seem to
you
be true. Yeah. Yeah.
go a bit more into that? I remember you mentioning something, for example, when you walk down a street, what you see then in comparison to someone else,
Yes. Yes. So
or feel or perceive, let's put it that way.
yeah. So I would say that some of this may have even become it. This definitely started to become aware to me before even last year, right? So at, at least time's weird. It's at least since the pandemic. So time's been really weird, but um, I would say 2020 was my hardest year. Like, in if I look back at my life, 2020 was absolutely the most challenging year for me personally, mentally, physically, all of it, right? And it was uh, also the year I got married. It was also the year. It was the year of the pandemic. It was the year there was lots of changes at work that really should have been my clue to leave. Like, it should have been it should have been enough to tell me, you're done here, go to a new place, do something different. I had 2 job offers in that period of time, and I turned them both down, because I felt like my stress was too high to do more things. Um, and so, yes, somewhere in there, it was, yeah, it was probably the end of 2020 whenever the TikTok was really raving about all these different ideas of mental health and mental, um, people were describing their experiences of ADHD, describing their experiences of being on the autism spectrum. Those definitions were changing, they were flexing a bit, and those labels were becoming a little bit different at the time. And so I thought, I haven't had a really great experience my entire life on the medications that I'm on for the mental health that they think that I have. And I decided to just go to a whole new doctor and said, okay, I have my history. You're welcome to it. But I want to start just from ground zero. Technology's changed, measurements have changed, all this stuff has changed in the last, 20 years or so. So I would like a I would like an evaluation on today's data, on today's information, today's science. And so like, it was an hour phone call. Within like 10 minutes, they were like, yes, it's clear you have ADHD. Have you ever been tested for autism? And then like walks me through a bunch of, kind of general questions that really pointed to ADHD, right? Like
Mhm.
a autism and a ADHD kind of cohabitated life. And being, gosh, I was 41 at the time, I guess. And so being over 40, I had already built systems to kind of protect me, right? Like, you know, so the questions like you might find on TikTok or whatever, and they're usually kind of funny of like, you know, do tags on the back of your shirt bother you? Right? Because that's kind of an indicator that you have at least skin sensitivity of some sort if you're constantly aware of a
Mhm.
tag. And I'm like, well, no, because I don't buy shirts with tags. Like that's just
Yeah.
solved.
We just avoid the problem.
Right,
It's not a
right.
problem.
And so like we would go through this list and they would always have to kind of adapt it and go, do you do anything that might contribute to not liking your socks? I'm like, oh yeah, we got a list of things we won't do about socks. Like, and so it was funny, but it was also earth shattering at the time. Like I remember coming out of that thing where I kind of expected. Well, I don't think I held any expectations when I went in. I hoped that I would have clarity about myself. I hoped that I would understand something new that would help me feel better or change something about my life that would then improve it in some way, whatever that meant. Like I was willing to accept whatever that would be. And um yeah, to come out of it and they're like, yeah, it's definitely ADHD and might be autism. Here's some meds that are going to help with the ADHD. And I'm like, okay, so like maybe that'll fix things.
Again, a
I
label.
yeah, again, a label. Yeah. I don't know really or if I expected anything exactly from ADHD meds. But it was, yeah, it shook me. It took a bit to adapt just because like the noise in my head, the anxieties that I was having, they were ruminations. They were just these cycles where I would just kind of get myself stuck, or I would read
Mhm.
something in the news at the time, and I would just get drowned in that whole idea over and over and over. And I had to see it from all these different angles, and I had to understand it. That appetite was no different. It just had a focal point, and that focal point I couldn't easily break away from it without the medication to teach me how I could break away from it, I guess.
Okay.
And
So
so
you kept taking it then?
yeah, no, yeah, still now even, and there's days like they have what they call like holidays or vacation days or whatever that you can take on the meds. Some doctors encourage it, some don't. It depends. And it's usually like a day or two or a weekend or something like that, where you just kind of let your creativity do whatever. And those are really helpful for me to see the contrast of how my brain reacts with this or doesn't react with this. And then
So you
slowly,
don't take anything during those days, or just from my
yeah,
understanding?
right, right. If I take a
Okay.
holiday, which is
Okay.
usually I'm lockstep with my doctor on these things, but
Hmm.
um, I'll take a couple days off and just kind of monitor. I'm already a data person, I'm already interested in
Do you
that.
have your spreadsheet
I absolutely
statistics?
have the spreadsheet to help me
Okay.
figure it out. Like, I don't trust my memory on those things. And I mean, and I don't have to when I put it in there, right? I just put it in there and I don't have to keep it in my head as
Yep.
something of value. I know where to get it if I need it. Um, but yeah, that kind of helped shatter my world, I guess. Uh, and really exposed to me there that it's not hard to live. It's not as challenging. I don't need to be anxious about everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was that diagnosis then started to uncover uh, what I did not call at the time, but I call it now. It would be that shadow side of things, right? It's the side of me that has been pushed down for so long that I didn't recognize it as even a part of me. I recognized it as separate or removed. Um,
Mhm. The part that perceives the world differently as well.
yeah,
How do you
because
perceive the world?
great point. Yeah, I would say with and it may
Because you
be
sense a lot.
I do. I sense way more, and that was part of the anxieties, right? That was part of because I'm getting all this input from everywhere. Um, this kind of still goes back to the science part, but it's still like it's all part of the same conversation where, we receive probably well over 1 billion bits of input per second through our senses, just our physical senses, right? Let's not even have clairs or anything in there, just physical senses.
Mm.
Each one of those is probably a billion bits of data. And of that billion bits of data, they only let a million of those bits go through per second, right? And of that million that come through, your brain filters again from that million um, down to 50, 10 bits, right? And so if you're just looking at numbers, just the numbers, your senses are your senses lob off something because they decide that's trash. We don't want that. And then your brain decides it because it goes, I don't know what the hell that is. That pattern makes no sense to me. So it goes, I don't need it because our whole world is around patterns. If I show you a thing and you've never seen it before, right? Your brain starts going through what could this be? And it's looking for a way to figure out how to figure out what that is on the information that it has available. If it has weight, if it has light, is it, what is it? Right. And so
Yeah.
like part of your brain is going to look at that and go, well, that's just a cylinder. But if you know, if you understand the crystal world, you'll know that that's sorenite or whatever it is, or maybe you'll
And
see it
what it
and you don't know
does,
about
or
sorenite and you'll go, that looks like quartz to me, right? Because your brain is just a pattern machine. It's just trying to fit. What is this? What is this? What is this? Right.
yeah. And you
And
see more
so
patterns
I,
and get more
well,
information, or less is cut off.
I
Talked
would
about
say
orbs or all kind of things.
I didn't realize, I didn't realize there were people who didn't have audio in their head. I didn't realize there were people who couldn't just see an apple on a table, red in their head with the shadow and all that stuff. Like I see vivid imagery in my head. I have vivid dreams. I have colorful stuff. When it's not, that's when it's noticeable for me, right? That's when it's like, why? That's weird. But most of my internal is very, very visual, tactilely visual at times.
Mm.
Um, and or I can smell if I think of like a plate of food, I could smell that food sometimes. And so I
You
didn't
know
know.
stuff as well.
Yeah,
I know during our training, during one session, you just came up like, "Are you or you're a pilot or something?" I mean, I'm not a pilot, but my whole aviation background, you
right.
just sensed that somehow. I don't know if
Yeah,
there an airplane on top of my head or whatever you saw, but you just knew, and you knew nothing about me apart from my name. It was
it's
amazing.
it's I
Had us all
I
confused.
yeah, and I can't even explain how the pieces come together because it's like it's such a meld of several things. Like when I experience stuff like that, it's not one sense, it's a group of things that come together for me to go, "Oh, that's this." If it's just one piece of it, it's not enough of the picture for me, but it has to have like kind of all of these things come together. And then I feel like I'm safe to make that conclusion or that jump to that. Like for that one, it blurted out because I was
Yeah.
just like, like when it clicked. And I was just like, oh, I may have said something wrong. Or like, I think I
Oh,
saw
but
your
you didn't.
face
I
and I
mean,
was just
we
like,
were all
oh,
surprised. Like, what? What just happened? But it was spot on. I just didn't see it coming because we
yeah.
didn't know each other's
What
occupations, backgrounds, or anything. And you
it was
just,
a surprise for both of us. How's
yeah,
that?
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. But I think that there are patterns all around us all the time, everyone. And it's how quiet can we make the rest of the things around us to be able to tune in. If you're at a concert and I'm trying to play a voicemail, you're not going to be able to hear it. Like you can't, right? It doesn't matter how high I turn the volume on my phone, the voicemail's not going to come through. But if you could find a way to quiet the concert, if you could find a way to hone your ability of like tuning the rest out or tuning into what you want, then that's where you start to see these other things start to emerge. And I think everything is around us all the time doing this, and we are just oblivious. Um,
It's a brilliant analogy because it makes clear that anyone could listen to that voice message at a concert
yeah, it's
if
just
you know how to tune out
right.
the
If you can
concert.
figure out how
Yeah.
to change it to where your focus is on that one thing and you don't feel overwhelmed by the other stuff. That was part of the autism understanding is I was overwhelmed by everything. And I already knew that most of my thoughts were different. I write on the table and like in my head, that's on that table until I get rid of it. Right. I'm the one who can like wipe it off. And so at work, I would write on conference tables with my finger and I have notes there. And so if I could leave and come back like a week or two later to that same conference room, and when I walk in mentally, I see what I wrote there. And I can go over to it and go, oh, that was for this meeting because mentally I've stored it in that space. Like it's stuck there for me.
That's really cool.
Nobody else can wipe it off. Like it was a topic of conversation where they're like, what about this or what about that? And yeah, it's mine. It's unique to me. Nobody else can read it. It's like the ultimate security, I guess. But I would, uh, I was known for not bringing notepads to conference rooms. I would just write with my
You have
finger at
you
times.
have the whole table. Who
I
needs a
write, I
notepad?
really do. um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
the autism and what you touched upon earlier with shadows. I mean, autism is something someone could see as a hindrance or other character traits as well, or abilities, senses being overwhelmed.
oh yeah,
Could we go a bit deeper into shadows, shadow work, the whole concept by Jung and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shadows are interesting. Uh, I think I don't even. I think I've known about shadows for years, as far as like the theories and stuff, because that sort of always was interesting to me. But I never saw it much more than just like theory, right? It was just sort of concepts of how those things how we can frame the parts of us that we don't understand yet, right? And there's other ways that the same kind of concepts get worked in, right? You got the family systems, which is like, your inner child conversations and stuff like that, where you'll sit across from a chair and pretend it's the younger you who was traumatized by some specific event. In Christianity, I think to some degree, the word sin is kind of cohabitating with that idea, unfittingly, in my opinion. But um, yeah, the shadows are a part of us. They're not separate. They're not something we extract. They're not something we pull out. They are something we have to figure out, why does it exist, and what brought it there, or how did it start? And then you unwind it, and then you pull it into yourself, and you go, this is a piece of me that was reacting to a situation. That situation doesn't exist anymore. And then you're finding a way to let that go. That's the shadow work in general. And how
Have
you
you
find them.
done shadow work as well for yourself?
Yeah, I think shadow work is inevitable, right? I think everybody goes through it, regardless of what they call it. They're gonna have to go through it, right? Um, and I think that it sucks more whenever you reach a point where you're willing to put names to some of those shadows. Like, oh gosh, I had really good examples too. And um we yeah, so we tend to only want to present our best side, right? We all want to be Instagrams, right? We only want to show that side of us. Um And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but I do believe that it is critically important for us to know our own shadows and to be able to manage them, integrate with them, understand what causes them. I think that's what makes us a better person. It keeps us from being just a reaction, right? We're not only a reaction to something that happens to us. We are then capable of going, I this isn't that previous situation. It's different than that one. This is a different time, a different place, different person. And so I don't have to react the same way that my shadow may have taught me to react. Um,
What could a shadow be? Just to give someone an example, a shadow, how they'd react at work or something like that.
yeah. So there's one example that I kind of came across, which was basically shadows tend to be the opposite of what you expect it to be, right? And so a criminal would not have a murder impulse. But they have the opposite of that. They have sincerity, relatedness, tenderness, right? They're soft, but they're reacting hard. They're soft and they're reacting in that more murderous or whatever, right? Because they're trying to resolve a thing that hasn't been dealt with. And that is the fact that their sincerity, their tenderness, their relatableness at some point got injured in a trauma. And that could just be they were being sincere and somebody was rude to them. And they were at a young enough age that they couldn't understand. Maybe it happened repeatedly and they just weren't able to understand that's that person's fault. That's not my fault. And so when they pull that into themselves, that sincerity becomes the opposite. That tenderness becomes the opposite. They become hard because now they're trying to protect the sincerity. They're trying to protect the pain that they experienced. And so whatever happened right before the pain that they were doing is that is the shadow that gets projected onto their psyche, life, ego, whatever you want to say. It pushes that down onto them, and now they're protecting this side of them because that made them painful in their mind. And until they can bring it back around and go, that's not what caused the pain. Somebody else's reaction to me caused the pain. And then when that's released, they're allowed now, they allow themselves again to be that sincere, caring person again. I mean, there's the shadow of a shy person could be assertiveness or commitment, responsibility, right? They showed that at a time and somebody made them feel vulnerable, or they experienced some sort of pain when they were doing that responsible or assertive thing. And now, to protect it, they are shy. They don't put themselves out in the places that they should. That deficit is the shadow. That is the cast that is behind us, and we can't see it usually because we're usually looking at the sun still. We're looking the wrong way, right? You have to turn around and like be willing to look inside. You have to be willing to go, this hurts, this feels. What is it showing me in return? And if you're just always stuck looking, always stuck trying to focus on the light, and you don't ever turn around, then like that part of you can't be resolved. It just, like, it will eventually, like it will win, like it will give out, right? But it's
In an
excruciating.
ugly way, possibly
You're
then.
usually very ugly after
Yeah.
a lot more traumas.
Yeah.
And
Because
so,
yeah,
yeah,
we focus on the labels, the highlight reels.
yes, yes. And we believe that that's the whole story. And it,
It's a tiny part of the story.
not even a tiny, it's smaller than that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's not the part that builds the story.
No. And so, yeah, my shadows are, they're apparent to me. I know how to navigate them. They're, I would say we're friends at this point. If I'm to put like some sort of removed piece from it, or removed idea of it. But they're they're ways that I learned to respond because of specific situations. And as I find out that I'm responding that way, I can get rid of it. But I have to be aware of it. Like that's the first step, finding out that it's there at all. Um, Usually our friends or our family can see it before we do, but they also can project theirs. So like they can see it, and it's not even, you know, um, it's not even ours, it's theirs. If you wake up in the morning, there's this old saying, if you wake up in the morning and you've ran into three assholes by noon, you might actually be the asshole, right?
I
And
don't
so,
know that saying, but it's so true.
right?
Thank you.
And so like
Ooh.
we see our shadows clearest in the people that we are frustrated by. Maybe we don't like them. Maybe we I don't particularly use the word hate very often, but like maybe that's a feeling that somebody has about somebody else. And the question is, are you really willing to go, is there anything to hate about that person? Or am I looking at a reflection and that's the thing I really don't like? I see my shadow in them, or I see them getting away with the thing that my shadow is protecting. And for autism, that's what my problem was. Like for years and years, it irritated me to no end that anytime I got around somebody who was mentally, if they were on the autism spectrum, like very much on the autism spectrum, or Down syndrome or things like this, I found it excruciating. Like physically, my skin would want to just rip off of me. Um, to be in a conversation with somebody like that, and it wasn't until autism that I realized it was quite literally because they were getting away with a thing that I was told to keep in check. I was taught how to be socially adaptive, how to be tactful, when to say things, when not to say things, how not to hurt people's feelings, how do these things work, how to behave, right? Was taught these social orders, and these social orders weren't taught to them. And so it was making it hard for me to not dislike them, or made it harder for me to actually, communicate with them, even because I was seeing a reflection and I did not like it. And the reflection was, you get to do what you get to be socially stranger, and I never could be. And when I realized that that was part of a shadow, or I realized that that was a part of me that I was allowed to let loose. I was allowed to remove my masks as somebody who's on the spectrum. that made it all the more clearer. Like I could interact with these people and I didn't have that same weight because I understood that the social constructs that we have are all made up. They're all imaginary anyways. We all agree that the dollar bill has a certain value, or we all agree that this monetary thing means this thing. Um, but when you realize that those are all rules that are made up, and like literally every rule is made
It's
up,
a piece of paper
it
or whatever the fabric is.
yeah, it has so little dictation on my life anymore. It doesn't drive my life as much anymore. I go, oh, that's a rule that they're following. I understand it. That's the thing that they understand as being set in stone. I definitely don't have as many issues with dropping those things and going, that's an imaginary rule. I decided that a long time ago. Do I really need to keep it? Is it value for me? Is it teaching me a thing or showing me a thing or keeping me safe? Or am I torturing myself with it? And then go from there.
How that's a step most people don't take, the awareness, and then to have these realizations of, yeah, how much you're blocking yourself, how the whole system is really this construct of beliefs that we are told and we believe and thus support the system again. Um, and going back to the shadows to face your own darkness, that requires a lot of courage because it's not easy. I mean, it certainly also doesn't make life easy if you ignore the shadows because, as we said, they will surface
Yeah.
in probably a less pleasant way. But still, to take the first step yourself is, yeah, requires bravery. But
Yeah.
there's more than just the shadows, because in the concept by Jung, there's also, you mentioned the golden shadow. That actually I hadn't heard about before. And maybe you could go into that, because that might be even more scary to some people. To face
Yeah.
your darkness, okay, but to face the golden shadow.
Right. And yes, that could be very disorienting, I would say. And I think the main reason is because the shadows they project on different surfaces, right? And so the dark shadows are the ones that they're external. They're the ones that we're going to see that reflection in somebody else's. Like we're going to see anger in somebody else. We're going to see uh
Envy.
well, that ends up being like the golden part is the one where we like, oh, I wish I could do that. Right. That's a pretty good
Oh, yeah.
indication that that's a golden thing you should at least investigate in. If you ever see somebody and you say that thing and you've never tried to do that thing, that is absolutely it, like definitely put a marker on it because that's something to investigate. You're telling yourself you can't do it for a reason and you've never tried it. You're telling yourself that you couldn't be like that. You couldn't be the freedom that you see them, the creativity, the whatever it is, right? You're telling yourself no, essentially. And
So maybe
so,
to go one step back for someone who hasn't heard about the concept of the golden shadow,
yeah, sorry, yeah,
to make that more clear.
right.
I mean, we're
So,
already going into it, but for someone who's never heard of it before.
right. So in my words, the dark shadow is a reflection outside, and the gold shadow is a reflection inside. So the gold is you holding yourself back, right? Um, and then the dark is you recognizing yourself in others. Right. And so both can be at play kind of at the same time. But like once you get a lot of the dark shadows out, it becomes a whole lot easier to see the golden ones because those are the places that you have to now the ability. One, you're not talking yourself down. You're not talking down to yourself rather as much because that shadow part has been the dark shadow part has been kind of managed, and you're working through it. You're at least aware of how to find it. It's easier because it's external to you. It's a lot easier, I would argue. um, but the gold stuff is harder because you the indicators are they're less profound in my mind. They're less, oh, that's me holding myself back. Oh, that's because somebody said be quiet when I was trying to ramble on about some topic, right? Um, and so like my appetite for knowledge it's not a new problem. Right? I've had it my entire life. In my entire life, I've had periods where people have told me be quiet, or I've had authority figures tell me that it's not my place to talk, or respect them, or respect their very bad judgment or bad information, or those social positions that we find ourselves in is so far for me anyways, seem to be the ones that are telling me that might be a shadow. So if I'm telling myself that, oh, I can't, well, actually, this podcast is a great example, right? Because like I don't feel like I have any authority on a subject. I don't feel like an expert on anything, I would say. And I definitely don't like the word expert being applied to me. Like it's an uncomfortable feeling, right? That I might have a level that is
What is the
measured.
level?
Right. And yeah, where's this magical level at? Can I see a ladder so I can know what I need to get to the next one? Like maybe. But that is in itself, that is a golden shadow, and it clearly, because it's a place where I find it uncomfortable to reflect internally, right? I find it uncomfortable to take in you're an expert, when expert really just means knows more than that other person. Um in the computer world, a lot of times they'll use the word guru, like or the ninja, or all these interesting words, and they're doing that. I believe they're doing that um, because people's golden shadows have been repressed, and so they came up with new words, right? That they would be okay. It's they're funny, or they're whimsical, or they're interesting, and they don't mean expert. They don't mean authority on the subject. They mean something separate. They mean this other thing. I work really fast and I'm very passionate. Great, you're a ninja, right? I can think through complex problems. Well, maybe you're a rocket scientist. I don't know, right? And so we may call people those little colloquial things. Um, I think probably in fun, but it is still pointing to this problem that somebody told us that we can't be this other thing, or we've told ourselves we can't be this other thing. Um, and now we've applied it to ourselves, and we've kept it. We've continued to stab ourselves with somebody else's pointed words over and over. And I think, like being invited to do this, it's then my responsibility to go, oh, that feels that feels weird. Why? Why am I holding myself back? Am I holding myself back because of a reason, or just something that's long been forgotten and I can let that go? And once I figure that part out, I answer that part for myself. Like that's me releasing myself to go be freer, because the the golden shadow doesn't have to protect that anymore. I've decided it doesn't need to be protected.
Yeah. And also on this podcast, you can really just let it all out. I'm not an expert. I don't know if you put yourself at any expert level, but just from my understanding again, so the golden shadow would also really be kind of a good quality that we repress or we're scared
Typically,
of showing
yep,
to the world,
it is our,
because it
yeah,
it, it would show us in, well, we'd have to step up into our greatness, and that can also be quite scary, maybe
yes,
even more scary than facing your darkness, or
right.
less how should I say it, yeah, the qualities you don't exactly appreciate in yourself.
But the question is, why wouldn't you appreciate them? Like they're your qualities,
Yeah.
you've taught yourself, or somebody's taught you to not appreciate them. And that is worth asking the questions. That's worth wondering, why is this way? Why do I feel that way?
Yeah.
Do I want it to still be that way? And knowing that you can change it, right? Like sometimes it's easier to say the words than it is to do it, but like, it is just making the decision and then just following that decision. I mean, because that's all we have are decisions, choices and decisions. That's what we get. This is it. And
It
yeah,
is.
we choose them and then we go down that path and we just charge it. I mean, just go for it. Uh,
And we don't have to follow everything society teaches us or makes us believe.
or our
Once
parents or
we
our teachers or our
everyone
friends or, but
once we go down that path,
yeah,
everything unravels.
yeah. I
I'm
think,
just look yeah,
yeah,
you think?
I think that shadows are, they're transferable in the sense that somebody else's shadow can cause the trauma to me that I can have a shadow, right? And so if they're, if I, for instance, when my son was growing up, if I, if I told him, don't do that because of a social rule, right? But it's his it's his nature to want to do that thing. I'm trying to think of an example. I don't have one. I'm sure one will come to me in a minute. But maybe he's trying to be playful or loud in a place that I consider you're supposed to be soft or maybe just softer than that, right? I, to some degree, mine is a shadow. Not some degree, mine would be the shadow of telling me we have to behave a certain way for a certain reason. Da 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 da. That's the story I've told myself. And then because he's acting in his true self, and I come at him and go, no, 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 you can't do that, right? If he experiences pain in that process, that becomes a part of his shadow. That becomes a thing he now has to instinctually protect because he was too much. He was too passionate or too interested or too creative or you know too loud or uh and maybe it was the first time he ever tried dancing or the first time he ever tried using like we heard somebody talk about using a fork and knife and the
Yeah.
family laughed at them because they were 3 or something and it caused pain, which was a misunderstood thing anyways. They thought it was adorable, but it was received in a way that made it feel painful and made them go, "Oh, I don't want to experience that again." And so from then on, 3 on, they are now stuck with this protection. Definitely by like 4, they don't even know why it's there. But it exists, right? They're shy, they don't want to try new things. And it was all because they tried to do a thing on their own and felt pain from it.
I think it's unavoidable also, no matter how well aware you are as a parent. Like you
Yeah.
said, the example with knife and fork, you just try it, and that can cause such a reaction or almost trauma, and then yeah, start that shadow that will follow you along through your life, and then you can use up all your life to unravel that. It's a fun game we've entered
Hopefully.
here.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's people who yeah, I mean, there's people who die and they still haven't dealt with those things. And
a lot of
um
people.
yeah, and that's I think I'm fortunate, to be able to experience the things that I have. I think I'm fortunate to be able to yeah, just be able to look outside and see the leaves dance different or just nature's alive and I could sit out on the porch and watch the grass, right? And I'm pretty sure that my neighbors think I've lost it a long time ago. But I can sit outside and just look at the grass, and it looks like I'm looking to see if the grass is growing. That's literally what I would imagine it looks like to them. But what I'm actually watching are all of these insects moving around, and then there's a bird that'll fall occasionally and like do some stuff, and then he'll fly off, and then another one comes. It's completely different. And then I'll see a grasshopper, or I'll see these they look kind of like grasshoppers, but they're really small and they're flittering across but you're not going to see that if you just walk by the lawn and glance at it. You actually have to be there long enough to see the changes and see the differences. And I think most of life exists within those patterns of we get busy and we don't address the shadows. We don't realize they're there even. And so we get stuck reacting. And if we have enough compounding reasons, that shadow that's protecting us takes over and then like really wants to protect us. And then we're that asshole or whatever. Um, and yeah, there's so much going on around us that to just be amazed, to pull in, ground yourself and realize that you're a part of that, but you have to be willing to be a part of it. You have to pause. You have to slow down.
Yeah, be present, aware. It's a lot harder for most people than just adding 3 more errands to the list and always run, 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 do it. But to
Yeah.
sit down, to do nothing.
To observe. I mean, we always feel like we have to do something. Our observing is to swipe. I mean, I'm totally guilty of it. I'm totally picking on myself, but
Same here.
we want to hear somebody else's thoughts or opinions or feelings because that invokes it in us. And um sometimes we just need to observe, just sit back and just feel. And I think that,
It's a part of nature.
yeah,
Nature isn't always doing stuff. Some
right.
things just exist for the sheer, I don't know, there's no reason. It's just there.
It's just a dance. It's
Yeah.
just, we're a part of, we are instruments in a big orchestra. And yeah, we're just trying to find a way to play. And we don't always realize that our string is broke or bent or needs to be replaced or just out of tune, you know?
And I think because I like the picture with the orchestra that a lot of people don't focus on playing. They focus on, am I the first violin? Where in that orchestra am I
Right.
sitting? Which instrument do I need to be there? Plan everything, put it out, but do they actually play the instrument? Or just follow along with the music? And maybe there's not even a conductor. Because, yeah, I was thinking also now of the concept of identity. They try to find themselves, where in that orchestra is my seat?
Yep.
But maybe there is no specific seat for them. And also, because I was looking at my notes now that I noted down before the interview, I was thinking of identity and I literally wrote down, are we onions? Because I was just reading this now. Okay, cool.
we're,
This is
la- we're layers.
are we? Yes, we are layers, but I mean, an onion has an amount of layers you can count, but because we were talking about this before as well, the whole one revelation after the other, does it stop? Is there the
Right.
final layer? And then I know myself now. I know how the game works. Do we?
I Gosh, I
What's your
hope not.
take on that?
I don't know. I think I often wonder if this is a plateau and then it's not. And it's like, okay, well at least it's not a valley. That's nice. So I'll take what I can get. Yeah, onion's probably pretty fitting as well because you got this hard dirty surface and you eventually get that off and then you've got a little bit different and different and different and
And you cry along the way.
oh, so much crying. Yeah. Yeah. But you also, with every one of those, you are shedding, like every emotion that you end up facing um becomes valuable to you. It becomes purposeful and meaningful and impactful and it shapes you. I think it makes that crystalline structure of us when time stops. But
Makes you question, do we need the concept of identity? if you really lean back and trust the universe, God, what have you not, what is identity? Do we need that? Is it
I think
necessary?
identity,
And
yeah, I think identity has value when you need there to be good and bad, right and wrong. Um,
what is good and bad?
right. Like, but once you reach a point, and I mean, mentally, spiritually, I don't know how we would actually even frame that, but once you reach that point where you realize it's not good or bad at all, those are, I think Alan Watts probably describes it as two sides of the same coin, or it's like a wave. A wave has to have a trough and it has to have a crest, or it's not a wave. It's just a flat surface of water. And so you're always going to have, but one doesn't ever overtake the other. One side of the coin is never going to take over the other side of the coin. And so um, the good and the bad isn't, it is a shame that we have to experience them, but the good or the bad is not the relevant part. It's how do you experience that thing that happened, that coin that was yours? What did you experience there? If you're in the trough of a wave, knowing that the crest will eventually be there, like there's a saying, "This too will pass," right? And for the first 25 years of my life, I think I heard "this too will pass," and I just took it as it's something you say to yourself whenever you're going through some really horrible junk, right? Like, can't pay rent, or you lost your job, or whatever, right? This will pass, and that's true. It will. Um, Probably later in life, my 30s maybe, I started to realize it actually also meant the other way too. Not in that the shoe will drop, but like the idea that this is a cycle of life, right? If we've reached that pinnacle and we're like, oh my gosh, everything is amazing, it's always going to be
Ooh.
like this, that's a tsunami. Those also want to balance out. And so yeah, however deep it goes, it's gonna go that high, and however high it goes, it's gonna go that low, and they're just cycles, and it will pass. Whether you're in the middle, the bottom, the top, it will continue to change, and the question is, are you accepting of that change? Are you trying to dictate that change? Are you trying to be the force that drives that change or keeps it from happening when you feel like it should happen or shouldn't happen? And I think the more that we can find our way to like just be the wave, not the boat, right? Don't be
Mm.
the boat that's like worried about drowning when it's in the trough, or, worried about launching when it's in the crest, but just be the wave and realize that the boat is not really relevant. The wave is the experience. The wave is where you're at. Uh, and these cycles of life, they're going to come. And I mean, for me personally, I've reached a point where I welcome probably the bad as equally as the good. Like because I'm going to see it as an experience that I didn't plan for, obviously. And so it's something that I couldn't have anticipated. It's something I couldn't have desired for myself to go through, to learn, to adapt, to grow, to figure something out. Do I necessarily seek it out? Absolutely not. Let's be clear. Right? I'm not after having bad shit happen to me, but if it does, I feel way more equipped right now than the anxiety me last year would have said. Right? Like last year, I would have been like, I'm a risk assessor and I do everything I can to avoid risks.
Yeah,
Right? And now I'm like, it's just stuff. It's just things that happen. And
it's
do I want the bad?
surrendering,
It is.
surrendering to life.
Yeah. And I've stopped resisting. I've stopped battling it. I'm like, oh, this is going to happen. So let's just deal with it and go. Um, it will
Yeah,
pass.
it's probably not what the risk assessor would do, to just surrender.
Right.
Goes against the concept. But I love the picture you painted with the wave, to just be the wave. Like, fuck the boat. We're just gonna be the wave.
Yeah. I think I saw myself as a boat for far too long.
I certainly did as well. I don't know where I'm at right now. I think I'll have to think on that later or feel into that.
Yeah.
I think I'm in between right now. Or sometimes I still switch back because I do surrender to a lot. But then the habit comes back and I'm the boat again and ugh, it's a big
Right.
wave.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we get done growing. I don't, plateau or not, like there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens,
Mm,
and some happens for a day and some happens for apparently months. But um I'm just thankful for the things that happen to me.
yeah.
I guess I'm just whatever they are. I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's a new thing to tackle. Most
It
of my
is.
experiences, I get frustrated trying to describe them even to my wife, because I don't have enough words to describe the colors that I would see or the intricacies that I happen to notice. And you have to be willing again to observe. So
Language can be limiting
language
in
is
some ways
mm, yeah.
because, yeah, there's so much more you can sense than a word can say. I have another question for you because you have a Substack, and correct me if I'm wrong. So Substack is kind of let's call it a blog where you can put up your posts and people can
Yeah.
subscribe to it.
Yeah.
Maybe something like longer. Okay, not similar to
It,
Twitter in long form, kind of.
I might be
Correct
okay with
me,
that.
please. Correct me,
I would
just for
say it's
someone else to understand.
absolutely. I would say I see it as kind of like a Tumblr maybe, where you can post these really long things, but
Hmm.
there's also the social media aspect of it that is like the Twitter or Blue Sky or Threads or whatever. But
Okay.
you have this ability to post like full articles.
Hmm.
It also has the thing that makes it probably different than a lot of other places is there's the subscription and monetization side of it, right? So,
Yeah.
like as a creator, you can write stuff that is behind a paywall, and so people have to subscribe and they have to pay a certain tier, kind of like Patreon, I guess.
Hmm. I
Uh,
think people get it this way.
yeah,
What we're
yeah.
talking about, and your Substack is called Leaky Thoughts.
Leaky thoughts.
How did that title come about? Because I had a look at some of the posts, but yeah, the title was already. Hmm.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask
yeah.
him. I want to know more.
Yeah. Uh, Leaky thoughts. Often feel like I have so many thoughts that they just leak out, and I have to write about them. And so I don't write on the Substack quite near as diligently as I do for myself. So for myself, I probably write 2 documents a day on Google Drive. Like that's a decent average, and it could be just 6 or 7 sentences about things I noticed with the carpenter bees outside, or
So a bit like a
deciding
journal.
that you probably consider it a journal. But they're all just different files, and I don't, I put random names on them sometimes, um, and I don't have them at all remotely organized. Um, so, like, if I ever wanted to find something that I wrote, it's always challenging. It's always challenging,
You have
but
AI to sort it, I
right,
guess.
right. Yeah, that's totally helping lately.
Theoretically.
Hypothetically, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Um, and so yeah, that's made it easier to find some things, but I write a lot just for no reason at all but me. And so there's sometimes stuff I feel like it has enough meat on it, or I feel like I've explained something about it interesting and well, and I want to go through the effort. So then I'll put it on Substack for just people to read if somebody happens across it. And I do believe, and this probably goes back to even the beginning of the conversation. I believe that we can only comprehend or understand things when we are primed and prepared to understand them. I think that,
How so?
yeah, I think that, so imagine if you were to, yeah, it's your first day at high school. I don't know how high school is where you're at, but it's your first day of high school and you were supposed to take algebra one, but you walked into a calculus one, right? You're not going to understand what they're talking about. Like they are using numbers and it seems like you should be able to grasp it, but the concepts are just a little outside the realm of understanding. And so until you've had the foundation that it is using to explain, until you have the labels that it's using to describe things, you don't know what it's describing. You don't know what it's trying to tell you. And so I think that's why we can watch a movie at one part of our life, watch it again 5 years later, and it has a completely different mind blowing reason. Like
Oh yeah.
it
Kids
makes so
movies.
much different sense to us because we weren't ready for that message previously, and now we are. And so the other message we got it. And so a really great movie is one that has that multiple messages in it every time you go through it. Because every time you go through it, you get to have that new experience of, "Oh, I don't know why I didn't realize that." Um, and so I think most of our lives consist of that. Like you have to kind of be prepped and primed. Otherwise, whatever they're saying is just gibberish. It just doesn't, it's not going to work. It's not going to resonate. It's not going to make sense. Whatever words you want to go with, you can't consume it at the level that they meant to send it.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of sense, actually. It might even be that you could understand, but you're not expecting something. Let's say you can speak Spanish, but you walk into a French class
Right.
and you're expecting to hear French, but they don't. So you don't understand it because they're speaking
Right.
Spanish.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
as you expected in the French class to hear French, you cannot understand Spanish.
And now you have a headache and now you don't feel good. You don't feel secure. You don't feel as solid in yourself. You don't feel grounded or anything. And it's not because it's the wrong class for you, but it's the wrong class for you right now, maybe. And if you keep forcing it, you're just going to have more of a headache, right? You got a harder road. You got to like, but if you're able to just go, oh, that feels like I'm not ready for it. And be okay with that, right? You can back up and go to the class that you actually need to go to learn the fundamentals to be able to get to that next stage. But if you keep forcing it, yes, you'll eventually get it. But like at what cost? Like, and was it really worth that when your rebellion or resistance isn't going to help all situations?
I agree. Joseph, is there a question that you would have wished that I'd asked you today? Something you'd like to share?
That is a fantastic question.
Yeah, it's the question when the host no longer knows what to ask. And you put out that question, put the pressure on the interview guest.
Right, right.
Take your time.
We've gotten so far off the rails. We're gonna throw this out.
Yeah, to
Um,
somehow circle back. No, but seriously, is there something you would like to go into still that I have not mentioned?
I'm thinking. You know, there were questions that you had posed at the end of the prep material, and while I thought they were interesting, um, they they had me thinking in a specific way that I kind of enjoyed. So let me, uh,
Pull them up.
yeah. So yeah, I think I think if I was asked the question, if somebody feels that they're different, somebody feels like their world is changing, their worldview is changing, their perspectives are changing. What do they do? Right? Like what I think that's the question. What would I have wanted to know when this started unfolding for me, when I realized something's changing and I don't know if I like it or not, right? Like something's happening and I don't know where this is gonna go or what this is gonna do. What would I want to know then? Um, I think that would be a great question to ask. Uh,
Should I repeat it or can you answer it in the same go?
oh, no, yeah, I go ahead and repeat it for me. Yeah. Like, how
Sorry?
did you hear it? Yeah, no, repeat it. How did you hear it?
Basically, to give our listeners a real life, well, example or approach to when your world view is changing and maybe also your world is falling apart. Of what can you do then? What would have helped you 1 year
Yeah.
ago? Or also when the whole autism thing came up, what would have helped you in that situation to deal with it, to yeah, cope with everything, to reorient yourself in this new world you're being dropped into, to
Yeah.
cope with all the things that are all the input that's coming from the outside, to sort that. What would have helped you then?
I think I was fortunate enough to have curiosity first, right? Like I'm just curious in general. Um, if somebody found themselves in that place and they needed to know how to proceed, I would say starting with that first is finding your curiosity in it, just going, that's interesting. And if that's all you're capable of doing for a bit, is just going, that's interesting. Uh, I think that's a great start because it leaves you open to whatever happens next. Um, I struggled because I wanted to attach labels to things. And so my immediate when I realized what was happening, I was like, oh, well, I have to call this something. Like I'm not going to be this anymore. I need to have another name for it. I need to have another name for this thing. What is this called now? Where am I going? What bucket do I fit in? And well, maybe there is no bucket, and that's okay for sure in the beginning to not have a bucket. It's okay to learn to feel, right? Which was super hard. Um, but when you can find that piece of just being okay with feeling and being okay with being curious about the things that are happening, they lose the sharp edges that they would normally have, right? They don't cut you near as hard and they're not as thorny or whatever words you want to go with, right? They are more freeing because you realize you're not attached to them. You're the observer that's observing them and they can happen and you can feel about it. That's perfectly okay. I don't think spirituality is about not feeling. I think I kind of see this sort of trend that's on the social medias that's trying to say that spirituality is this thing that teaches you to be so zen that you don't feel anything. I think it's quite the opposite. I think you feel everything.
Yes.
You feel so much more than you ever thought you had the capacity to receive. And in that, you choose not to judge it. You choose to let it be an experience. Um, not easy. It's not easy to do it, but when you do, it's really freeing. And so I would encourage those people who are probably going through that to study how to embody those feelings and emotions. Like most of my life consisted of me doing this sort of grounding check that, it's like, how many things can you see, smell, taste, um, hear, or whatever? It's usually those senses. Um, and that's supposed to like pull you back into the present moment so your anxieties don't like run amok. And those are helpful starting points. But I would say also if you start running this whole body check to some degree where you're going, what does my big toe feel like? What does my thumb feel like? What does my left thumb feel like? What does my right thumb feel like? What does my left butt cheek feel like? When you're able to do that thing, right? You're able to go through your body and check it. It's not easy the first few times, like for sure. But eventually you go, oh, wow, I didn't know I could move that thing that I didn't even know was a muscle. Okay. Um, and so like you can slowly fit back inside yourself, right? Um,
We'll have
I'm
everyone wiggling their ears soon because they regain so much control.
right. I don't know, waving with ears, like who knows?
Why not?
But yeah, it's about fitting back inside yourself. It's about realizing that your body, your meat suit, as I use that, my first post was about meat suits. Take care of your meat suit on the Substack. And so like your meat suit, it's a part of you. I don't think you're stuck in it. I think you're around it. I think you hold it together. I think the center of you holds it together, honestly. Um, and sometimes we get out of whack and we're not in it. We're not, we let it drive itself. We let it make its own decisions. We let it operate with its own shadows. And we have to pull back into those emotions and feel them because that's where the magic is. It's not running from the emotion for sure. Like you can't escape that. It's going to catch up eventually and it's going to be worse than if you deal with it now. But when you are angry, asking yourself why, or don't even ask why, just go, wow, that's anger. That's a, I don't like the way that feels, or that's interesting. I never noticed how it radiates through my back. I've never noticed how it makes my knees hurt. I've never noticed how it makes me want to run, or whatever that thing is for you. Um, Embrace that, feel that, understand it, cohabitate with it, right? It is a part of the same, you're in the same body. It's telling you a thing. Um, no different than, if you touch a hot stove and you feel burn on your hands, that's telling you a thing. Your emotions that you feel are telling you a thing. They're communicating. What are they saying? And it may take a little time to figure that out, but like that that's the spot that you want to find first. And when you feel like you've got that, because you don't, well, you feel like you have it, then you can start to look for others or community or words, labels, whatever that fit where you are in that moment. It doesn't have to fit you forever. It just has to help you relate what you're having so you can get it out, so you can feel it, so it can flow in you, flow through you, so that every cell in your body is a part of the same process. And that is this experience of now, present. That's, I struggled with that part. The, you know, I'd say the longest, but honestly, I think I got knocked over the head. And so it went by pretty fast. But um, I wish I would have known that I needed to feel and not try to push them away as much because I think feeling would have gotten me further quicker. Not
Yeah,
that this hasn't been mind-bogglingly fast because it's only been 6 months, like not even 6 months, I don't think. So,
it is
um,
mind-boggling.
yeah, I would
I
say everything
think
is
that
pretty
the
quick.
community aspect there can also help a lot because that really reduces the resistance of your brain and mind going, this is
Yep.
crazy. This is normal. No, we're going to push it away. But if you see others doing it or feeling the same or going through the same, like, I think I'd also say now, to me, that would have helped to reach out as quickly as you can to others. And I think now it's easier than it used to be because there you can reach out to a lot more people via the internet than you could when there was no internet and you were just living in your village and maybe you were the only person in that village that was special. Let's call it that. Um,
Yeah, I would say
Now
that,
you can find all the other special people in the other
yeah,
villages and
yeah.
get in
I would
touch with them.
the algorithms, that put us in our bubbles, they've done a great job of helping us find each other. And before that, yeah, it was word of mouth. It was, serendipity, happenstance alone that would get you in front of the community that was yours, the community that you would resonate with. And it was harder for sure. And I would say the algorithms, or, whatever words you want to put there for how you get shown the content that you get shown, um, curate it to the way you want it. And it's going to take you to the people who think like you. Get your voice out there, I think, is important too, even though I feel myself lacking there a whole lot. But I, yeah, being able to just say what I think on Substack or
You're already
Threads or
starting.
podcasts or whatever, to just, you have to get it out for anybody to know about it at all. And so it has to start leaking first.
To answer that question, I also, again, the leaking thoughts. I like the name. It's nice. Joseph, if there's one thing people could take away from this conversation, what would you hope it would be? I don't care what it is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've said the longest and I feel completely different about now is I'm special just like everybody else, right? I think I used to say that in like a cheeky way, I guess, like sort of making fun, but like not, yeah, I was sort of making fun of people. And now I feel different about it. I do feel like we're all special and unique. And when we're comparing, comparison is the thief of joy or whatever. When we're comparing, we're not doing it right. So it's about, looking inside
It
and
is.
realizing you're already special. You already have all the things that you need. They may not be visible to you because you're just not prepared to see them, but they're there. They've been there the whole time. They're either stepped on and buried by traumas and things that you've told yourself are rules that don't exist, because no rules exist. Literally everything is in our imagination. Everything. And we're allowed to imagine what we want and go for that. And um yeah, that's probably what I would tell people.
Goes perfectly with the podcast theme. Nice. Thank you. So how can
Thank you.
people get in touch with you if they want to? Where can they find you apart from your Substack?
Yeah, it's probably a great place to start. Yeah, I probably should make sure that there's ways to get in touch with me from there. Leaky Thoughts is probably the best way. But I'm also, my links to Instagram and Threads and all the other social medias will be there.
I'll
So that's
put
probably
it
a great
all in
place
the
to
show
start.
notes.
Right. I'll add it to the show notes.
Yeah. So, Joseph, I truly thank you for your time and sharing your wisdom, your perspective, and your journey with us today. I really appreciate your openness there and the insights you brought into this conversation, and your point of view. I think it is unique, because few people I've known so far look at the world this way, and it was really exciting, interesting, refreshing, and I really enjoyed it.
Same. I've enjoyed the conversation as well.
Nice. So for the listeners, if you have any questions, want to know more about certain topics, or feel called to working with me, contact data is in the show notes, same as Joseph's. And if this episode resonated with you, follow, rate, leave a review, or share it with someone who might benefit from it. That would be awesome. So I hope this touched you in some way and sparked a thought, or ideally a feeling. May you move through your day with curiosity, awareness, and a little bit more of your own truth shining through. See you in the next episode.